And hello all, and once again welcome to another My Thoughts of the Week, or Random Rambling Thoughts of the Week, as I'm probably going to call it from now on. Basically, I haven't really got a great deal to say. I was thinking, what could I talk about this week? And the truth is, I've been extremely busy with both cars this week for one reason or the other. Mainly the rover, getting more progress done, and there is going to be 3 or 4 videos coming out frequently. I'm trying to aim for a rotation of at least one rover video every 2 days, and Mark 1 videos occasionally, mixed with a load of other random stuff going on, and maybe me just whittling on and rambling on as I usually do in these sorts of videos. There was a subject that came up the other day which I thought was quite interesting to just speak about. There's not a lot of things that can actually trigger me to actually look at a post on Facebook and actually get quite passionate and quite I'll put it this way, enough to make me write that much of a reply or post on a thread. And it is basically Mark 1 focuses again, and I'm going to repeat myself. For those subscribers who've watched me since around September, October time, which is when I really started pushing the channel a little bit more. I have been around since March, April last year, but it was only one video a month. Basically, if you've been watching me that time, you will know that I've done several videos on Mark 1 values and prices, and where Mark 1 focuses are going in that respect, and the issues that we're facing as a Mark 1 community. And I say our because, you know, it is our community, and our community is only as strong as the knowledge and the cars. And the issue that has basically rambled on for the last 5-6 years is Mark 1 Focuses are fantastic banger cars that you could literally buy one 5-6 years ago for absolutely nothing. My best mate bought an estate O2 Reg 1.6 for 350 quid. It had the rear of the sills where they go in the corners, completely rotten. He didn't get, obviously it didn't get it through the next MOT, but it had 11 months on it. But it was a sort of disposable car that was going around back then, and you could buy a car for that price and drive it into the ground and then get another one. Ironically, I should have actually bought the car off him so I could take the engine off, because I could have used that. But, you know, it's just hindsight, isn't it? And for many years, that has been the way of buying Mark 1 Focus, is literally just like any old banger, just buy one and drive it until it falls into the ground and then send it off to scrap. Virtually, you don't have to spend any money on them because they're so reliable. I mean, literally, there'd be maybe a tyre, maybe a wiper blade, you know, something really stupid, and people would just absolutely, the idea of Bangonomics is to not spend money on your car. And do you know, as a concept, I find it really fascinating, and I've never got into it because every car I own, I have to be motivated to want to own it. I wouldn't buy a car that I just think is at a dumb shoe. Well, I was going to swear then, but I'm not going to. Literally like Chrysler PT Cruiser as an example. Don't even go there. Don't even go there. Disgusting. And that's the sort of car that if somebody came up to me and said, "Look, here's £500, free money, but you have to spend it on a car," I'd buy one of them. I'd go out and buy one of them, and I'd literally run it into the ground because I couldn't care a damn about it, and I'd want it to go to the scrapyard because that's the best place for them. There's other cars that are just woeful. The Rover, City Rover. Oh, dearie me. Now, I think I've done a video that is coming up where I actually say that basically a Rover 45 CVT and a Rover 25 CVT, because of the CVT transmission, they are literally the least liked of all the Rover models from the 90s, noughties, that last 15 years between 1990 and 2005. Literally, if you picked a car at the bottom of the list, it would be them two, the least desirable because of the gearbox. Because oh god, it's going to shit itself again. Yeah, I've just sworn. Like, honest to God, it's a habit. Yeah, pretty much that's what people think. And I'm going to find out for myself and make my own judgments. Because there's a lot of people that love the gearboxes and a lot of people that don't. And a lot of those people have never owned one, which really, you can't really sit there and criticize a specific gearbox for being rubbish because you've seen it in a forum, because you have no idea what circumstances that owner has had with that particular issue. They could have caused the issue by not neglecting the gearbox, by basically not maintaining the gearbox. They need an oil change every 2 years, but that's another story. But I completely forgot one car in that episode. As I say, that episode is coming up. And that is the Rover City Rover. And the reason I didn't even mention the damn thing is because they're absolutely awful. I mean, they literally don't even, I can't even begin to describe how desperate Rover were to do that, to actually go to Tata and literally bring a car over here and stick a badge on it. That's literally all they did with that car. I mean, it doesn't deserve the badge. It literally, I would prefer anything other than that car. I mean, seriously, they ditched the Metro after the terrible Euro NCAP crash results in '97, and they ditched that really quickly. Why bring such a... I mean, I'm not being funny. In 2004, I know it was 7 years later, but I prefer the Rover 100. At least it would be a decent little car as opposed to a little crap box. So no, I don't even go down that side. But Bangonomics, 100%. There's about 150 of them. There's about 150 of those little things that should not be wearing a Rover badge. I would absolutely make sure that every single one of them goes to the scrapyard. Apart from one, we'll stick that in a museum as a warning from history. That's pretty much what I would say. But basically, I've gone off topic again. But there are several cars that I would feel, do you know what? That's perfect Bangonomic territory. That. So yes, it would have to be cars I absolutely hate. And there's a couple of cars there, just as plain examples. I don't like Citroen Picassos. I think they're, oh goodness me, it's like, I've only ever seen a Citroen Picasso being driven. I mean, the really old ones, the original ones. I've only ever seen them being driven by chavvy dads. I mean, literally, chavvy dads who've got anger management issues and are driving the car in that exact manner. I don't know. Ronnie Pickering. Yeah. Remember that guy? Ronnie Pickering. There's quite a few other cars. I find French cars a bit weird, and some of them are really nasty, but then some of them are really good. I think the Citroen DS was just something that nobody could compete with. It was a one-off in terms of the design and everything, and it is definitely... we came up with like the Mini or the Jaguar E-Type really, and they had a DS, and it was like that really. But basically, that's Bangonomics territory. And leading back to what I was saying about Mark 1 Focuses, is when you've got that scenario, you're going to have so many going to the scrapyards, and that's just because values are so low. Now, I know that when it comes to car sales, people will pay what they feel a car is worth. The problem is it is slightly stagnant. I think I would have to speak to somebody who understands the actual second-hand car sales world, the dealers, because they would understand the psychology of this. But basically, where values are now, people will kind of hover around that. So say if a car is worth about £700 in this sort of condition, so people, when they're looking for a car of that ilk, they'll hover around the £600 to £800 mark. They won't really want to go over it, obviously, but they might have to. And if the person selling the car asks just a little bit more and puts their foot down, the price goes up. And then other people see, oh, this car sold for that, I'll put the price up. And it's a monopoly effect. Everybody follows each other. That is as literally as simple as it is, but it takes years for that to happen. And that's the simplest way I can explain that. And the consequence, though, for Mark 1s is so many of them have gone the way of the wind. That's natural as a car gets older, and the worst examples have possibly gone, but there are still some really bad ones out there. But now, since around 2020, since around COVID, there's been a growing awareness in the Mark 1 community, and this is before I started this channel. This is before I started doing regular posts on the group. But basically, there was this awareness where members were asking, is this car classic? And all you get on the Facebook groups is laughing emojis at the top side. So you'd have like, you've got your like, comment, and share button next to a post on a group. And literally all I'd see is about 60 people who have put like laughing emojis and then 20 likes. So that's 20 people who think that that is a relevant question. Like me, I've been saying that for years. 60 people who were actually members of the group thought that that was funny. And that is really a big problem when you've got people that are supposedly in the community but are not actually that enthusiastic about the cars, to the point where they're not championing higher values and asking questions. Is this car classic? Is this car going to be worth more? The answer to that question is very simple. It's a Ford. And Fords always become, put it very simply, Fords always become desirable after around 20 years old. It depends on the condition. Naturally, the ones that aren't so good are going to probably fall by the wayside. Some may get restored if they find a lucky owner, but most of the good ones are the ones that are going to carry on. And that's kind of happened in a transition. Now, I know that we've had second car values going through the roof, naturally, because of the chip shortage. Everybody can't get new cars, so they're buying second hand, and it's put the market up. I know that. But that's just a coincidence. The Mark 1 community has grown threefold everywhere. And values, which have been stagnant up until a couple of years ago, are no longer being stagnant. We've just said, I've just seen a few Mark 1s sold through the group for over £3,000. So some of my videos on rinsing people's adverts, it's blown out the water by some of the prices. Even I can't get it right now, because some of the really top models are going for a few £1,000s. And the great thing is, people are actually buying them at that prices. So people do think they're worth it. And that's great, because now that triggers the monopoly effect, because more people think, my God, someone's bought that car for 3,200. Now more people are going to think, well, what's my Focus worth? And more people, you don't have to be an enthusiast, but you have to, if you've got an understanding of what car you've got, if it's just an old car to you, and you just want to keep it nice and maybe sell it on later on, then that's something to bear in mind, because they're not cheap no more. Those days are gone, and I keep championing that, and I think more people should. But as I've said, in the past it was very different. People would really laugh at the thought of the Focus being classed as a modern classic. It's a banger, it's an old car. And I suspect a lot of members on the groups are just people that have owned a Focus but have actually got very little interest apart from that. That's okay. I mean, they can watch my videos, but my videos are aimed at the enthusiasts who want to actually keep these cars rolling long term. If you're interested in that, then you're in the exact right place. And if you want to keep it long term, I'm afraid, whether you like it or not, you are now a car enthusiast. That is a line between being someone who just owns one and being a car enthusiast, looking after one long term, because old cars are not cheap, and Mark 1s are not cheap no more. And when values rise and I've said this before, people are encouraged to spend more on their Mark 1 because they know it's worth more, so they can justify the expenditure of more parts, more repairs. That's going to be good for the cars, and therefore it's going to be great for the community. I hope to God that Mark 1s do not shrink into this tiny little cave where there's like 1,000 left. I hope not. I think there's going to be more than that. But at the moment, the way they're plummeting, it really does feel like that sometimes. No, there's going to be my prediction is the floor in about 10 years will be about 3,000, 4,000 examples. And I really do think that's a realistic aim, that is. Which is sad to know that there are around 70,000 left on the roads. My predictions, that's my predictions. I might be wrong, but it looks that way at the moment. To go from 70 to about 4,000 or 5,000, let's say, that's quite a jump down. But the way they're coming off the roads, I'm afraid that kind of lines up with what I think. So I'm really glad that it looks like from the Facebook groups that people are asking more money for their Mark 1s. People are, well, there's all sorts of really nice ones coming on the market, low mileage ones. And I think if you want one and you haven't got one, you're watching this video, go out and buy one. They're not cheap. I can't make any guarantees about that, but they're not going to be cheap. If they've got no rot, or they've had the sills welded and the rear arches welded in the usual place, you've got a really nice car there. And a lot of it you can do yourself. Trust me. A lot of it you can do yourself. But I hope to continue championing this long term, because apart from the Facebook groups, there's no real output for these cars. But I really do hope that people, if you haven't got one, you get one in the next 12 months. Because I can't make any guarantees, but it does look like in another 12 months, some of these cars are going, some of the really nice ones, may be out of reach of people. If you've only got let's say £2,500 lying around, and even that, some people don't have. Realistically, 1,500, £2,000 is what I'm comfortable with. I've got to be careful, because in about 12 months' time, that may not be getting me much either. My own example, I don't really want to put a figure on it. But if I had to sell it tomorrow, for what emergency reason, 2.5, probably 3, because it's a YouTube car. I'm not joking, because it's low mileage. It's absolutely mint for its age. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just passed an MOT yesterday, which you have all seen. It's had 40% of the car resprayed. It will have the rest done this year. So no, I'd want that sort of money for it, and it's an automatic, and automatics are more desirable. Again, I'm going to talk about that now. Actually, now I've come to the subject. Automatic Focuses, always, the pit, always referred to as the how should I put it, the undesirable side of Mark 1 ownership. And yes, okay, they're nowhere near as good as the manual version in terms of driving feel. I don't think you can truly understand a Mark 1 unless you've driven a manual version. I have occasionally. I've driven an ST170. The gearbox, the 6-speeder, was a bit disappointing, the Getrag. I didn't like it at all. I'm not quite... The ratios for me were just too close to each other. But maybe it's just my driving style. I am a lazy person. I prefer automatics, and I call myself a petrol head, and I say automatic petrol head. But the truth is, the way the car world is going, we are going to be living in a world of automatics from very soon in the future. And now people want automatics. For some reason, about 10 years ago, I mean, when I bought my Focus, almost 10 years ago now, automatics were still pretty undesirable. And you either drove one because you couldn't drive a manual because you only have an automatic driving license, or you're disabled. And that tended to be the stigma surrounding automatics. Now it's a lot more widely accepted. The other day I was doing some filming, and I think there was like 4 driving instructor cars that passed in that hour of filming, and they were all automatics. That would never have been the case 10 years ago, ever. So automatic focuses, if you've got one and it works absolutely fine, there is no slipping through the box. They can slip, depending what the issue is. Usually it's related to a lack of fluid. I keep hold of them because they are actually now going to become more desirable. They're more valuable in that respect because there is a demand for automatics now. And generally the automatic models have had easier lives. Unless you've used one for towing, that is not appropriate for the automatic gearbox. They will overheat. Those automatic gearboxes are designed for low torque applications. The 2-litre automatic, I think the gearbox is a bit at the end of its tether in terms of its torque capacity. And I know quite a few of them are capable of towing. I had a comment on my last video about subtle modifications, where I was just explaining and showing you my snorkel arrangement with the 2-litre automatic air deflector. A lot of people have now gone off and bought them for their own cars. I must have achieved something because about 6 people have gone and ordered them. So Ford must be scratching their head about why so many people are buying them. Well, you can get them brand new, and once they're gone, they're gone. So get in there. And I have put the parts number in that video. But the whole reason I fitted it was because, well, mine's a 1.6 automatic. Why shouldn't I have that? You can put it on any car. But the reason they fitted it to the 2-litre automatics, apparently according to one subscriber, and I think this is possibly very truthful, the 2-litre automatics were very likely to be used as towing cars. And that's true because I've seen a few 2-litre automatic estates with a tow bar. I think that's the most inappropriate use of a tow bar ever, because those gearboxes, especially with the estate, with that extra weight, those gearboxes are not going to cope very well. Okay, you've got plenty of power from the engine, but it's sapped by the gearbox. And if you're going up a hill with an estate full of cargo and then you're pulling a trailer, my God, that gearbox is not going to last long. So just something to be aware of. And that's why they fitted the air deflector. I can only assume that's the reason why they fitted it, so it takes colder air from the front of the radiator, as opposed to the normal snorkel on all the other models that takes air from high up above and can take some of the hot air around the engine bay. With the snorkel, there's less chance of that. So it's definitely colder air. So there will be advantages, because colder, denser air is always going to be better for the running of an engine. So it's not something you would see, but it's just something small. Where we are with Mark 1 values, they are climbing. They are not stagnant no more, and I'm really pleased about that. I think there has been a change since I started this YouTube channel almost a year ago now. There has been a massive shift in attitudes as well. And when people, if I was to put a post up saying, obviously people know who I am, but if people didn't know, and I put on the Facebook group, is the Mark 1 Focus a classic? Is it valuable? You would get lots of people just clicking like, and you will have barely anybody questioning it. There are a few odd people who always question things like that and say, oh, they're not worth much. I don't class them as enthusiasts, because if you're an enthusiast and you love the Mark 1, why would you not want them to become more valuable? What's the problem? I don't understand. So I am going to leave this here. However, I will show you something. I know that I've said in a previous my thoughts of the week that I would definitely not be doing merchandise, and I'm definitely not going to be doing merchandise unless I think there's a demand. But because I had something made for the Rover, which you may see if you watch the Rover videos, you might see it in a few weeks' time. I ordered something alongside it, which I thought was really cool. And it is, you got to have a mug. Yeah. A lovely little mug. I haven't actually drank out of it yet. But yeah, these little things are quite nice. I am not going to be pursuing anything else though, trust me. I'm not going to be wearing branding hats or anything like that. and I'm not cutting to the next shot when I'm actually wearing my branded hat. No. You take care, guys. I will see you very soon, and stay safe.